My name is Paisley Hernandez. At 34, I built a career I'm proud of as a marketing executive. On the surface, my life is polished, enviable even, but beneath the gleam lies a tangle of uncertainty, one named Nathan. Lately, shadows have crept into our marriage. It started subtly. Nathan, once predictable in his habits, began coming home late, citing work pressures. But the corporate world, my world, operates on whispers and hard truths. His excuses felt increasingly scripted, the gaps between them widening. Then came the secretive phone calls, his voice, hushed, his posture, tense. When I asked, he feigned confusion, his performance lackluster at best. But my suspicions truly sharpened the night I overheard a conversation. Susan, the plan. Paisley won't know. Susan, Nathan's sister, always watching, her smiles never quite reaching her eyes. She had a way of making me feel like an outsider, like I didn't belong. And now, she was conspiring with my husband. Against me. Fear was never my style. I chose strategy over blind trust. So, I played the role he expected, the unaware wife, nodding along when he mentioned plans I hadn't agreed to. But behind that mask, I was fitting the puzzle pieces together, dreading the image they would reveal. It hadn't always been this way. Nathan and I met at a company mixer, his effortless charm complementing my sharp ambition. We built something real, or so I thought. But as my career soared, his stagnated, and resentment settled into the cracks. Susan, however, had never bothered with pretense. She had her own brand of venom, subtle, but potent. Her disapproval of me was a silent constant, her presence a reminder that I would never truly be one of them. The shift from suspicion to certainty came on an otherwise unremarkable evening. Susan arrived unannounced, her request as bold as it was calculated, a $6,000 loan for some vague urgent matter. I agreed, but on my terms, a legally binding promissory note. She didn't hide her disdain. The idea of being held accountable, especially to me, grated against her, but she needed the money, so she swallowed her pride and signed. That night, I saw it clearly, the way Nathan and Susan moved, bound by an unspoken allegiance. It wasn't just familial closeness, it was dependency, manipulation, a game they had been playing long before I arrived. Nathan's mood swings became erratic, late nights, clipped conversations, bursts of frustration that had no clear source, except that I was starting to see through him. But I was no stranger to strategy. In marketing, success demands foresight, precision, the ability to anticipate every move before it happens. And now, I would apply those skills to a far more personal battle. Then came the final betrayal. A Thursday evening, ordinary in every way, until it wasn't. I logged into our joint account to pay a bill, expecting routine. Instead, I found devastation. A $99,000 withdrawal. My money I had saved before marriage, meant for a future of my own design. Cold dread gripped me. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated theft, and I had no doubt whose hand had guided it. The confrontation was immediate, bitter. Nathan stumbled between defensiveness and weak justifications, none of which could disguise the truth. This wasn't love anymore, this was war. And I never entered a battle unprepared. The man I had once loved was now a stranger, his betrayal not just a wound but a declaration of war. And in war, as in love, victory belonged to the ruthless. The next morning, I made 2 calls. The first was to a divorce attorney, one with a reputation for tearing men like Nathan apart. The second was to a private investigator. If Nathan and Susan were conspiring against me, I needed more than just suspicion. I needed proof. In the days that followed, our home became a silent battlefield, every glance a veiled threat, every conversation laced with hidden meaning. Nathan's late-night calls to Susan grew more frequent. The pieces of their scheme were falling into place. Then, an unexpected ally emerged. Bo, Susan's husband, called me out of the blue, his voice heavy with something I knew too well, unease. "Is Susan there?" he asked. A simple question, a damning implication. As we spoke, the truth unraveled. Bo, too, had noticed Susan's secrecy, her sudden need for money, the way she whispered into her phone when she thought no one was listening. It didn't take long for us to connect the dots. Nathan and Susan weren't just siblings. They were partners in deception. The plan. If they wanted to play games, Bo and I would show them how it was done. Over coffee in a dimly lit cafe, we laid out our counterattack. Bo, a man who had spent years enduring Susan's quiet manipulations, understood my fury because he shared it. Nathan and Susan were planning a lavish getaway, a trip funded by the money they had siphoned from us. We let them believe their plan was flawless. And then, we turned the tables. Bo ensured their travel funds would mysteriously vanish the moment they landed. Meanwhile, I replaced Nathan's credit card with an expired gym membership, an unnoticed time bomb waiting to go off. Their downfall wouldn't come in a dramatic confrontation, no shouting matches or fiery accusations. No, their downfall would come with silence. With the slow, creeping realization that they were utterly trapped. Checkmate. The night before their departure, I watched Nathan pack, his mood buoyant, his arrogance nauseating. "You'll miss me," he teased, flashing that grin I once adored. "Immensely," I murmured, my voice a careful balance of sarcasm and deceit. The moment he walked out the door, I felt a strange mix of liberation and quiet dread. This was the beginning of the end. And then, the real fun began. Bo and I waited. It didn't take long. Nathan's first frantic call came hours after they landed. "The card's not working," his voice, usually so controlled, cracked with frustration. I smiled. "That's strange," I replied smoothly. "Maybe you should call the bank." Each passing hour brought more chaos, more desperation. Their funds? Frozen. Their credit cards? Declined. Their carefully crafted escape? Crumbling. Bo and I exchanged updates, our revenge unfolding in real time. Nathan called again, his voice now a mixture of pleading and barely restrained fury. "Paisley, you need to send money, this isn't funny anymore." But it was. It was hilarious. The satisfaction was undeniable, yet beneath it lay a quiet ache, the realization that this was it. The man I once loved, the life I had built, the trust one had given so freely, it was all gone. And all that remained was a war I had already won. Nathan's voice, once soft and full of affection, now dripped with venom as he demanded during one of his frantic calls. But I stood firm, unmoved by his pleas. "I'm sorry, Nathan, but I can't help you," I replied, my voice unwavering. His shock crackled through the line, his disbelief tangible. For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't bending to his whims. I wasn't his pawn anymore. Meanwhile, Susan's carefully crafted image of the doting sister and loyal wife began to unravel. Bo's updates painted a picture of a woman at the edge, her manipulations exposed for all to see, her power crumbling as the weeks passed. By the time their disastrous trip drew to a close, the walls of their deceit were crumbling. Forced to rely on the kindness of strangers and fellow travelers, they faced the humbling reality of their own actions, a stunning turn for two people who had always felt above others. The homecoming, when they were finally due to return, I felt an unsettling mixture of relief and tension. The end of their trip wasn't the end of the battle, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. I steeled myself for the confrontation that was coming, knowing Nathan would return a man stripped of his arrogance. And when he finally walked through the door, the change was unmistakable. Gone was the swagger, replaced by something unfamiliar, defeat. His eyes met mine, searching for the wife he once knew, but I was no longer that person. "Paisley, he began, his voice faltering as he searched for words. I cut him off before he could finish. "Save it, Nathan, I know everything." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating with the weight of truths long buried. In that moment, I understood, I wasn't just surviving, I was liberated. Reckoning. The days following Nathan and Susan's failed escape were a reckoning. The house, once filled with laughter and love, now echoed with the cold, hard reality of betrayal. Nathan's return marked the beginning of a series of confrontations, each one more heated than the last. Our conversations, once filled with shared dreams, became battlegrounds, where words were weapons. But in the midst of the fury and heartbreak, something else emerged. Freedom. My meetings with the divorce attorney became routine. Each consultation was a step closer to severing the last ties to the life I had known. The attorney was sharp, determined, a fierce guide through the legal maze I had to navigate. Bo, too, was moving forward, filing for divorce from Susan. What had started as a shared goal for vengeance blossomed into a solid friendship, one built on mutual respect and understanding. We often leaned on each other, sharing our pain and triumphs as we healed from the wounds of betrayal. As the divorce proceedings pressed on, the full scope of Nathan and Susan's deception began to unravel. Financial statements, bank records, private investigator reports, all the pieces fell into place, painting a damning portrait of their treachery. It was a bitter pill, one that I had to swallow, but it only strengthened my resolve to finish what I had started. Closure. The day the divorce was finalized, I walked into the courtroom as Nathan's wife, and walked out as Paisley Hernandez, independent, strong, free. The months that followed were a whirlwind of transformation. I poured myself into my work, channeling my energy into the one area where I still had control. Soon, my efforts were recognized, and a promotion landed on my desk, proof of my resilience, a testament to the strength I had found through adversity. Life after the divorce became a journey of rediscovery. The world, once seen through the lens of my marriage to Nathan, now opened up to new possibilities. I found joy in the small moments: a quiet evening curled up with a book, a coffee with Beau, who had become more than just a friend. He was a pillar of support, a steady presence in the chaos. One evening, as I stood on my balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, it hit me: this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of something entirely new. A new beginning. The end of my marriage to Nathan closed a tumultuous chapter, but as with all endings, it marked the start of a new beginning. In the months following the divorce, I found myself evolving. I shed the remnants of a past that no longer served me, embracing the person I was becoming. The promotion at work wasn't just a career milestone, it was a badge of honor, a recognition of my strength, earned through every challenge I had overcome. Beau, too, was on his own path of self-discovery. Our bond, forged in the crucible of shared pain, had grown into something deep and meaningful. Our coffee meetings, once casual, became a constant, spaces where we could laugh, share, and heal. There was comfort in Beau's presence, a quiet understanding between us that needed no words. As we navigated our new realities, our connection deepened, transitioning from friendship to something more. It wasn't an overnight change, it was gradual, natural. Pain had given way to joy, and somewhere along the way, Beau became not just my confidant but my partner. One evening, as we strolled along the riverside, the city lights reflected off the water like stars in the night, Beau stopped and turned to me. "Paisley," he said, his voice a mixture of nervousness and sincerity, "these past few months with you have been a journey I never expected, but one I'm grateful for every day. You've become so much more than a friend to me." His words mirrored my own feelings. "Beau," I replied, my hand slipping into his, "I feel the same. You've been my rock, my laughter in the darkness. I can't imagine my life without you in it." In that moment, standing together by the river, everything else faded away. There was only us, two souls who had found strength in one another. The future awaits. Life, I had come to realize, was unpredictable. It was a tapestry woven with threads of joy, pain, love, and loss, but it was these very threads that gave it depth, that made it a masterpiece. As I looked ahead, I saw a future brimming with hope, a future where I wasn't defined by the past, but by the choices I made and the person I had become. The road ahead was uncertain, yes, but with Beau by my side, I was ready to face whatever it held.